Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Yarns with Andy. Today, I've got Alan O'Connor from Black Interiors. He's a project manager at Black Interiors. Started his life being a chippy.
Yep.
And now works his way to being a project manager.
Yeah.
Interesting journey indeed. Let's explore a little bit about his journey. Welcome, mate.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great having you on the show, and thank you so much for taking the time for being here. Really appreciate
you
it.
having me here.
Yeah, cheers, man. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I started a building apprenticeship when I left school. Finished that and working away as a builder. And after the earthquakes in Christchurch, myself and my partner kind of felt like a bit of a change, see some of the world. So it brought us over to Christchurch, and then I suppose somewhere along the way, I started to get more involved in steering things around and hammering and nailing, and the nail bag kind of was worn less often, and then eventually it ended up in the garage, and found myself kind of coming into more of a supervising role. And yeah, it was a long process. It was not something that was planned. It just kind of evolved more than anything else, and kind of sees me where I am here now.
Interesting indeed. Alan, you've emphasized the importance of building and maintaining relationships in construction while building major construction projects. What does that mean in Alan's world, in Alan's head? What does that mean? What does that mean to you?
I think for me, it's like the whole thing is about learning, and the most learning that you do is through your relationships with other people. From right back to the start, when I start building, you have a mentor's relationship where you're learning off people all the time, and as you kind of progress, it becomes more of a collaborative thing where you're learning off your peers. You're still maybe got a mentor. You're getting more involved with other trades on site that are in a similar role to you, and you're kind of learning about how they are dealing with things, and how you can kind of incorporate into them. So we all work together like one unit.
Seldom happens on a construction site.
Yeah, I mean, it does at a kind of a micro level. I think there's lots of little informal things, and I often remember, just that chat with, maybe a plumber and a sparky in the same space as you, and it's nothing written down. It's nothing like a pre-start or anything. We're just having a yarn. This is what I'm planning today. What are you planning? We're never going to seed the room, but we're going to find a way that we can all work together. And then, within that, you kind of learn what they're doing, how they're doing it, maybe some tolerances they have, and that they're learning the same from you. You're more conscious of each other in the space, and you're getting a better product and probably less rework out of it.
But that's an interesting point, right? Okay, you're talking about on-site subtrades, which is trades working on-site, which is great. Now you say throw a client in the mix. Yep. Which give me a chance. You throw a client in the mix. Now throw designers that actually design the building, where you as a main contractor are throwing RFIs their way and a boatload of them, right? Okay. Then you've got your project management team that you deal with. Now I'll add another party, which is your councils, which are always on site. Yeah. I keep going. All right. So when we come back to building relationships and maintaining the relationships, it becomes quite a bit of a complex situation, doesn't it?
It is. It is, but it is enjoyable as well. You've mentioned all those parties, and they definitely all kind of come to the table. But
and they're all important for building a building. Yeah, they're all part of it.
They're all important, but I think once you communicate and you're really honest, I think if it's bad news, you really just kind of have to give it in a way that's palatable, but give it. And that trust, I think, is kind of what drives that relationship as well. And even you mentioned the council, and quite often that can go better with inspectors that you've done lots of inspections with down through the years, and how each other operate, and he's going to want to see this and this in a certain way. He'll like to go and see the work first. We come back to the paperwork, or vice versa. And then we can kind of learn people's habits, what they like. You can adapt what you're doing so that you're making it easy for them. And that's probably where my job is, that I'm trying to steer everything around. I'm trying to be a central conduit and make it easy for everybody without making it not easy for someone else. And that's given and taken. And that's enjoyable. It's fun, I think that trust thing as well, quite often the best, relationships are built from, that one time when our backs were against the wall. And, we're in this now. Let's collaborate. Let's find a way. And you get over the line.
Have you worked on a project that's happened?
Oh,
Reality?
probably every one of them that,
Every one of them, you reckon?
you always find it from
Mate,
a small scale.
what am I doing wrong in my career?
Well, it's a small scale to a big scale. You always end up with your backs against the walls at some point, and you figure it out. You figure it out. You find a way. I know you're a BIM fanatic, and I love the idea of that. But probably when you're not using BIM as much, there's lots of clash detection that goes undetected.
Clash detection in BIM is just the tiniest portion of the capabilities of BIM, but I won't get into that.
It's the one that I'm most interested in, because
Is
I
it?
think
It's the one I'm least interested in, by the way.
I feel like that drives an awful lot of clashes, where you end up having to get loads of parties involved, and let's find the best, fastest, cheapest way to resolve this to keep the show on the road.
Capabilities of just 3D, 4D go way beyond BIM. We haven't even scratched the surface in New Zealand. And in New Zealand, when we say BIM, everybody says clash detection, which I believe is just fucking bollocks.
Oh, really?
Straight up bollocks. It's like it's I've seen clash detection. And I know we're a little off topic, but I've seen clash detection implemented on a job where it was so complex, getting a federated model, going back, resolving a single clash on site with a BIM model, coming back, refederating that model. That entire process was so convoluted. I just went, what are we doing? Why can't we just take a piece of paper, look up at the ceiling with the blocks, figure out exactly who gets the first route, and you take the next level.
Well, that's how we're doing it. I thought it was the lo-fi version of it, but yeah,
no,
it feels a bit analog when you're doing it. But that
sometimes it's just simpler.
Yeah.
But I mean, in saying that, if implemented well, it can be quite a good process. But 4D in itself stretches way beyond. Can I take this opportunity to explain some of the use cases of 4D that I'm
go ahead, mate.
I have a vision for the future.
I love the start of this so far.
Yeah,
this is good.
It's good. I have a vision for the future. I wanna be in a position where I can take a 3D model, drop it in an environment, and have all the quantities taken off for me. Click of a button. Yep.
That'd be amazing.
Not impossible, right? Now let's say hypothetically, I do not like the way my takeoffs are done. It's not by floor level. On my floor plate, I have 3 different zones. I want my takeoff done per floor, per zone. Make those alterations on those grid lines, set up those zones in the model. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Click another button.
I mean, that would
probably
do me out of a job there.
Oh, mate. I reckon quantity surveying will not be a job in 5 years from today. Bit of a bold, contentious statement out there. Tell the quantity surveyors, don't fucking kill me.
You're going to have the QSs like hunting you down.
Hunting me down.
I've got a mortgage, man.
I believe that because the way AI is going, quantity surveying is going to be push of a button from a 3D model if the design's done well.
What do you think about that resistance to change, particularly?
That's where the 5 years may become 10 years or 15 years, but that change is inevitable. It's coming.
Oh, I tend to agree with you, but yeah, I think 5 years is it's a big statement, but yeah, I think
mate, I'm an eternal optimist. Always see the glass half full. So, okay, that's one use case of BIM, right? Imagine from that point in time, right? Now I've got a full takeoff done with quantities, right? Now let me put all the planners out of a job, including me, right? What if you could, right? Automatically now generate a task list from your BOQ, right? Which is not hard, right? Steel. You're adding a verb to a noun, right?
Yeah.
Steel is already modeled and coded in the 3D model. Now I'm turning around and saying install steel. Install being the verb, steel being the noun, right?
Yeah.
Cool. That's a task. Okay. You're performing an action.
Yeah.
That's fine. So that's pretty simple. You could predefine that whole lot. Get generative AI to predefine that whole lot for you. Hear me out. I've still got more. This is a vision, mate. It's a vision. It's a vision. Let me keep going with it. Now, what if I have standardized production rates that the industry worked to, Now I have quantities, I have production rates. Quantities divided by production rates equals duration. You have a risk factor in there, that's okay. We'll manage the risk at a later point in time. All right? Now I have a full task list and I have durations. I'll keep going to that still further, right? We've been building shit since the pyramids and we're all defined by rules of gravity. Yeah? Okay? Now, if the 3D model's coded perfectly, I can now auto-link all of those because your sequences are always preset. So it's not rocket science. You've got to do your piles before you do your ground beams. You've got to do your ground beams to do your floor slab. You've got to do your floor slab to put columns. You've got to put your columns to put beams. But you've got to put the level 1 columns, level 1 beams, level 2 columns, level 2 beams. Cool?
Yep.
Conflow goes somewhere in between. You pour some concrete. Sure, whatever. Right?
Sounds simple.
Same. It's fucking... It is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm calling a spade.
No,
Here,
I
mate.
agree with you. Yeah. You're selling me completely.
Right.
I'm shaking in my boots here. 5 years, you reckon?
Now, I automatically link the entire program based on base logic and rules of gravity. Not hard.
No.
Right? I've got 90% of a program. Why the fuck am I sitting down, reviewing a design, measuring the quants, taking the quantities off, creating a task list, coming up with durations? I mean, all of this just seems so hard. I'm like, there must be easier ways of doing things. But yeah.
It sounds like there is an easy way to do
There
it.
is.
All right.
I believe there is. I 110% strongly believe there is. I'm of that strong belief. Things will change.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you. I'm always reluctant to say that change will happen quickly. I just feel like there's just that resistance to something different. Particularly when it's going to do some people out of jobs, you're definitely going to have resistance. But
Okay, so let me recorrect.
at some
that
point,
statement.
costs will dictate it as well.
It's not gonna eliminate their jobs. I think their jobs will evolve to be something different
And you offer something different.
that we don't know. I don't know how to define what those roles will be. If you ask me if I'm going to be a planner in 5 years, I believe not. What I'm doing today is not what I'll be doing in 5 years. 5 years ago, if you asked me, you'd have a website that's going to write your emails for you by just basic input. I'd sit down there and laugh at you.
It's actually pretty far-fetched when you say it like that.
Well, that's the truth, though. ChatGPT, basic input. All right, real life example, right? My wife is stressing. Like, she's completely stressing about this email that she had to send a movie theater because she bought a Lux ticket in St. Luke's, and the seats were broken, and she had a horrible experience. She paid for the Lux experience, came back, and she's bitching and moaning about it. And I was like, cut it out, positive energy, right? All right. She's like, I've got to write this whole email and tell them. I'm like, that's easy. Come sit down. Let me show you. Right? Told her to explain her problem briefly on ChatGPT. Next minute, she had an email, copy pasted that email, sent it to Event Cinema. Boom. We've got 3 free tickets for Lux now.
It's a win is a win, eh?
Mate, it's mental. But 5 years ago, could you do that?
No, yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird when you couldn't. I would have honestly thought that was made up if someone said to me 5 years, this is on the cards. And I probably would have said the same thing. I'd say to you, oh, Andy, I don't think 5 years, maybe 20 years. But now it's here and, refining and, chatting to different people, and they give you ideas for how they've used it to kind of simplify something or speed up some menial task. And you're like, oh yeah, I could either do that or adapt it to do something that I wanted to do. And yeah, I wouldn't have seen that coming as quickly as that. 5 years ago, it's not that long ago.
It's not. Yeah. But anyways, that's why, hence I started that conversation with, I have a vision. Well, it's a true vision. It's a true vision.
It is. It's a very impactful one and convincing.
Convincing.
I believe in you.
Oh, mate. Oh, I'm just a good salesman. I sell ice to an Eskimo and dirt to a ditch cleaner. What do you reckon?
I reckon the world will always need salesmen like you. Eh? I'm buying in.
Oh, you're buying it. I love that. Now, all right. So anyways, we'll just wrap that up.
Yep.
Sorry, we started talking about relationships and then we drifted a bit towards AI and a bit of a vision. But looping back, building good relationships is important, and I tend to agree with you.
Yeah, definitely. You know what?
It's a hard thing to do, and if you're managing to do that, good on you, mate. Well done.
Well, it's a satisfying thing to do because if you do it right, everybody gets on well, that positive experience, and then that end product. You've all got that feeling that we've worked together, we've got over the humps. Yes, every day is not rosy, but you try and keep the wheels moving forward, even if a few arguments here and there. And I think, most people are grown up enough to know that, we don't have to get on every day, but once we kind of just think of the bigger picture and just keep things moving.
That's it, eh? That's the one.
Yeah.
There's some sound advice from you, from Alan O'Connor.
Now we
There we
just
go.
have to follow it.
That's it. So, Alan, you worked your way through being a chippy all the way to being a project manager, right?
Yep.
I've gone from engineering school to project controls. I've never been a chippy or didn't start as a trade. What's that like? What's that journey like being for you? So if
Unexpected.
I do have a second part to that question, but I'll get to it. Sorry.
No, you go.
My second part to it is, what if somebody out there wanted to go through the trade route? What would that pathway look like for them to becoming a project manager?
Oh, I mean, I think it would look different for everybody. I'm sure there's a quicker way to do it than I did it, but it wasn't a planned thing. It was just kind of constantly evolving. Opportunity arises, have a go at that, getting pretty good at this. And it just moved on like that more than anything that I had. It never even entered my mind until, you're in the middle of it. And then so as you start to become a little bit ambitious and you think, I'd like to, steer a job around. Now I'd like to steer a bigger job around, planning, a little job once you get, the hang of that, and then it just grows and grows and grows. But I think, coming from the trade background, even though you kind of progress, and like we talked about before, you spend time with the other trades, and that's definitely helpful in your sequencing, that you don't think exactly like them, but you know enough about them that you're thinking of stuff that they're concerned about to get your base sequence in before you start going and talking to them about let's get into the nitty gritty of it. And I think that other little thing that you have of, when you're down on the ground doing the work, you're worried about what affects me. How big is the lift? Where is the lift? Where can we deliver to? What's the loading dock like? Where's my storage area? How close is it to my workface? And so that's still running in the background, that you're kind of thinking of these questions for other trades, and then you're trying to, okay, well,
pave the way for them.
Yeah, pave the way. And, obviously it's
that
collaborative.
Sounds like a
when
good
you
project manager, right?
Well, look, it's some days it works, some days it doesn't.
What is it they say? The quickest way to build a building is to make sure that you have, you move people and you move material around your site as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
If your building gets built quicker.
And just single handling.
Simple rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's when every time I pick up a tender program, the first thing I'll look at is, what's my logistic strategy?
I mean, but it really is the key, and then again, it goes back to that, good relationships that you've built over time, that you can lean in and you can, call someone and say, look, this is kind of what I'm thinking. You may or may not be on the tender list, but I'll just give you an idea of what I'm thinking. Is this possible? Can you two guys run side by side, or is that a no-no? And yeah, it's just, I feel from doing a building apprenticeship, being around trades all the time, very comfortable talking to the guys, and it's just almost first nature to, I'll just give someone a bell and just, let's chat it out, let's figure it out. And maybe that would be the case if you had a traditional route to it, but I don't know. I've spent a lot of time on sites over the years, and I definitely feel like even if it hasn't helped me, it makes me feel like it's helped. And so,
I'm confident that experience on site's probably gold for your career right now. That's probably pushing you upwards a lot quicker because of that time you invested on site. That's my opinion, at least. But because think about exactly what you said. Just look back to all of those conversations. You're paving the pathway for all of these people. You're clearing. It's immediately people just go, I want to work with that guy because it's just easy. He communicates clearly, paves the way for me to succeed. I just have to get in there and do what I'm good at doing.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're all trying to make a couple of bucks, and if we kind of make sure that we can all do that, then the whole thing works better,
Couple of thousand, couple of million.
Wow,
but yeah.
Whatever, but it's the same kind of principle, I suppose, all the way up. I know the types of jobs you're on are sometimes huge, but I think a lot of principles remain the same, just scale slightly different. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just there to steer the ship a little bit and make sure that everybody's getting a fair bite to do their thing. They're the specialists. I just want to get them in and do the thing they specialize in.
If there's one thing that you could tell a young engineer or tell a young Alan O'Connor to do it differently, what would it be?
I think probably embrace the listening a little bit sooner. I think there's probably, if I'm honest with myself, when I was younger, there was a time that, not at the very start, but once you kind of get going and you start to feel yourself a little bit and you think you might, know a bit too much, when the reality of it is, in the scale of things, you don't actually know that much. And that, it takes maybe a little bit of failure to fall back and say, hey, look, I'm never finished learning. And even now, I'm always keen to listen, learn, better way of doing something. I may not take it completely what you've told me, but it might be enough of it that I'll take it and incorporate it into something else I've been doing to make, my own way. And then that's, up for continuous improvement as well. Nothing's ever finished. Like you say, everything's changing and we've got to change with it as well. But I think, just not being afraid to listen and, you don't have to take everything that someone gives you as a piece of advice, but, at least if you hear it, then you can, discern that information and say, is this useful to me? Is it not? But, my attitude at one point was probably, no, cheers, but I know better. Yeah. As soon as you let go of that, I think progress is a little bit easier to
I agree with you, mate. Listening is a key skill that I had to learn as part of this podcast as well. I realized I cut you off a few times as well, and I'm like, fuck, don't do that. But done 47 times, and I really had to learn to listen and shut the fuck up when the other person's talking. It's really difficult skill, and I've had to train myself to do that over years.
I suppose there's a little bit of excitement though in it as well, that like something comes to mind and you just really want to get it out, and it can happen in a conversation. It's so easy to happen. I feel like, my wife is probably thinking, how many times have you done it to me? But, she might be saying something, I have that idea, and then I just get going and, oh, sorry, jump the gun there. And I do fight that. Like I do fight that, because I know now that if I just listen, get all that information in, I'm going to make a better decision and it's going to work better for everybody.
100%. So for everybody out there, key skill, listening. Listen more, and it'll help your career. It'll help you grow. Alan, the government's making changes in reducing red tape for the use of overseas products into in construction, right? So they're hoping it'll make the process of building faster, cheaper. What are your views on that?
I definitely think that it'll have a positive impact for me anyway.
For you, because I mean, you are in the interior space, right? So it's going to have a huge impact on your work.
Because interiors jobs tend to run really fast from start to end, and a lot of time that speed is defined by the procurement time, and the only way around that a lot of time is a change from the design intent or something like that. We've probably seen during the pandemic,
the job crisis.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't want to say the word monopoly, but it was,
you can say monopoly.
Monopolies kind of created this, and the bottlenecks that it caused, and then, what were the options to use something else from abroad, and I think, that verification process as it stands currently, is time consuming and it's costly, and it kind of flattens your golden triangle, really.
It does.
With something like that. So like I would like to think that there are enough, I suppose, trusted jurisdictions out there with their own, brands or whatever it may be, that we should be able to, use. It's not all like for like, but I read somewhere that the Aussie watermark, I think it's called, has like 200,000 products, and I know they're not all going to be applicable, but there'll be a lot that will be applicable to the New Zealand market. And then I was, speaking recently with a friend of mine. He's living over in Vancouver a long time, and builder by trade as well, and he works for city council now. And so we'd just be chatting about work a little bit in between the good yarns, and had a lot of the same difficulties over there with leaky buildings, similar climate.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you'd imagine there has to be, lots of products that you could use in terms of cladding and facades and things like that. It might not be as simple as that, but, I just feel like the Aussie one, lead times, you're bringing stuff from Aussie anyway, just that monopoly, we got to get away from that.
I tend to agree, but proceed with caution, I believe.
Most definitely.
So I'll tell you one thing that was like going through my mind and bothering me when I was reading this article. I said, for all our commercial buildings, we need to have seismic bracing. That's part of the code. That's what the code says, right? It's not the same mandate in China, is it?
No.
It's not the same mandate 90% of the world, is it?
Yeah, I mean, but
How does that impact when you bring in different types of products, and when we have specific conditions that we've got to fulfill as part of our code? So I'm bringing one specific example.
yeah,
which
but
is
it's a very good point, and it probably eliminates a lot of those products until you have a chance to test them. But even if you have stuff like that going through the verification as it stands, add to the market, add other options. But I still think there's a lot of products there that aren't related to seismic, and however small they may be, it just feels like the industry is looking to pump, but we're all funneled into the same few things, and building another jib factory is not always the answer. There's lots of
I was part of the team that built the jib factory, mate.
It's a beauty. It's a big one.
It's a beast.
Yeah, but but it is a fair point about the seismic.
Yeah.
While that Pacific Ring, I'm sure there's lots of other places with seismic, issues in design and stuff like that. But I'd imagine New Zealand's is unique, as is everywhere's is unique.
It is, because then in China they're not even considering seismic requirements as a factor while they're manufacturing these products, right? So how do we then pick the suitable products for us? The last thing we need is another fucking leaky home scenario. I don't think we can afford another leaky home scenario.
Definitely, but I think your example of China, maybe using that route would be: are we going the cheapest? Are we looking to double hit? But you think if the EU,
that's the idea of this exercise, right?
Yeah,
bring the cost down.
But I think maybe if you look at the EU, Italy has earthquakes. I'm sure there's parts of Italy that have to think about this as well. So I think there probably are parts of the world that we can take some of their seismic friendly products and have a look at them, but it's probably more complicated than that.
Probably is.
I think for me, for the interior side of it, I could probably have at it, within reason. But your larger scale construction, then you're really starting to think about things not falling down on top of you, or water coming in left, right, and center.
Yeah. So, from a fit out perspective, which you're an expert in, what are the top 3 products that you're excited for? Would help speed up your jobs as part of this entire clearing the red tape of using overseas product, which is managed by the government?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Is it?
I didn't see coming. I mean, look, flooring products.
Flooring,
are quite often long lead. A lot of them are coming from Australia anyway, so it's probably a bit of a moot point. The plasterboard crisis has of course sorted itself out, but
it's pretty much sorted itself out.
It's the
monopoly's not gone away.
Point. Yeah. It's a bit of a weak point, and I mean, just for that, I mean, sometimes, and I don't want to disrespect anybody's fit out, but when you've seen enough of them, there's a huge amount of similarity between a lot of them. And I'd like to see if there was a broader range for designers to be able to maybe try and go for something a little bit more out there. I'm not saying that people aren't going for out there things, but quite often they're a variation of the same thing that you've seen somewhere else. And I think that's probably dictated by what you can get quickly and easily for a 10-week turnaround project.
I had a designer on my podcast, Yashidani. I was about four episodes ago. Back to that design point that you raised, he was telling me how his design intent and creativity is so restricted by what's allowed in the building code and the stipulations allowed in the building code. So back to the point,
he was fairly passionate about that. I actually remember that.
Oh, you remember that one? You remember that episode? Yeah. Oh, you watched the episodes. That's good. Yeah, he was quite passionate about it. So back to that point again, what can the designers do is only what's allowed in the building code.
Yeah.
So again, so but you believe it's going to have a positive impact? Yes,
I definitely think so. I mean, I'm not advocating a have at it attitude, but I definitely think the more products, the less bottlenecks you create. There's a lot to be done here, and a lot of what people want to do, and the more products, the more options, the more design features you can have. It's just better overall for everybody. And we all like using new things and new products and new methods. And you look at a drawing and you say, how are we going to, and then you get into the detailing of it. And then when it finishes, you look at it after and it's like, it's awesome, you know?
Yeah, that's it.
It's a really kind of satisfying one.
Yeah.
Not that it's not satisfying to do stuff that you do quite often. You can often hone it and try and make it better, smoother. But, you know, doing something completely new as a design feature is always cool when you
It is
put a
100%
hand
cool.
over the-
So I'm all for the whole Christopher Luxton, let's get New Zealand back on track, but let's do so with caution. Agreed?
Agreed.
Alan, so I've got a little game going here. I've been trying to incorporate these into my segments. For this one, I'm calling it Build It Right. So it's pretty simple. I'll shoot a question related to construction practices, whatever it may be. And if you believe it's a true statement, you say build it right. Or if it's a false statement, you say needs rework. How does that sound?
Give it a go.
Give it a go? Yeah. Look at that. Excited?
Yep.
Yeah, let's do this. All right. I don't even know these questions the first time I'm seeing them, so we'll wing it.
That's comforting.
That's
I can
comforting.
tell you anything I want. Yeah, no, she'd be sweet, Andy. Yeah.
Hang on. I've got the answer. My team's pretty good. Okay, cool. Green roofs are a more expensive but less effective sustainability option than solar panels in New Zealand climate. What are green roofs? I don't even know what green roofs are.
Is that with the grass on top?
Ah,
Um,
right. Have you built any green roofs?
no, I've only seen a few from a distance, but I've no experience with it. I'm gonna go. What's the opposite to build it right?
Needs rework.
Needs rework.
Needs
Oh, yeah.
rework. You're bang on.
I
Green.
thought
Thought so. There you go, mate. Green roofs provide numerous benefits, including insulation, biodiversity, and stormwater management, making them highly effective for sustainability, especially in an urban environment. So they're actually recommending green roofs over solar roofs. That's an interesting point, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks good as well, though.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah,
Like there's more greenery to
yeah,
the
that
space.
greenery. Yeah, definitely.
and yeah, it feels different as opposed to a solar panel sticking out.
Yeah,
But that in itself could be a big debate, isn't it? Green roofs versus solar panel roofs.
yeah.
I mean, naturally you'd tend towards solar panels. I would.
it's probably an easier one that, you know, there's lots of companies out there doing it. You know, if you ask me in the morning, you know, I want a green roof, I'd have to do a bit of digging to try and, you know, find somebody. But if you said you wanted solar panels,
One phone call away.
yeah, somebody, multiple, you know,
Yeah.
hey, can we go have a look at this?
Okay. This is an interesting one, right? Safety related one.
Oh,
Ooh. In New Zealand, all construction workers are required by law to have site safe training before beginning works on site. Build it right or needs rework?
I'll say it needs rework.
Build it right. Site safe training is mandatory to ensure that all workers understand health and safety practices, reducing the risk of accidents and accidents on construction sites. So apparently it's mandatory.
I would have thought, well, like, you know, because you've got construct safe and
Yeah. Then there's Chaz NZ. They play a part in all of this. I don't know how exactly, but I had a very interesting Irish guest. My previous Irish guest was very interesting. Guy by the name Declan Bannon. Do you know
no,
who he is?
I don't.
I recommend you go watch that episode. It's a really interesting episode.
Give it a go.
Shout out to Declan. Okay. Last one.
Cool.
Okay, this is an interesting one. All new public buildings in New Zealand must provide access for persons with disabilities according to the Building Act. Build it right or needs rework?
Build it right.
Bang on, mate.
It's a nice, easy one. I appreciate that.
The Building Act requires that all new public buildings in New Zealand are accessible to persons with disabilities, ensuring compliance with accessibility standards. There we go.
Yeah, it's good. You've just reminded me of something. We were in New York a couple of Christmases ago, and it's only when I kind of thought we were pushing a buggy. We had my boy in the buggy,
Yeah.
and it's pretty tough. Like for someone in a wheelchair there, it's pretty difficult. Like it's just lots of stairs.
Yeah.
We went to a restaurant at one stage and they had the disabled on the toilet, and I went inside to change his nappy, and it was like a wardrobe inside. I barely have enough space to close the door.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shit.
And on the way home, I was just thinking that like makes life really difficult, and you probably take for granted how much thought is given to that in New Zealand construction.
Well, I'm glad we give it enough thought.
Yeah.
I mean, me being a parent of two children as well, like that space is. You're thankful for that space, aren't you? So when you're coming out on an airplane, straight in an airport, you're going, "Oh, this place is so big." All right, now you can move around. I don't care, little child. Nah, mate. Anyways, those are like some really interesting conversations. Like, man, I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you having me here, Andy. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, mate.
Thanks very much.